Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to do a deep dive into Broadcom.
Broadcom.
You got it. They just hit a $1 trillion valuation, so we got to talk about them.
Yeah, they're pretty huge.
So I've been digesting a ton of info on Broadcom, and, well, you have too, obviously, in preparation for this.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And we're going to try to help our listeners out there really extract what they need to know about Broadcom and why it matters.
They might not be a household name.
Right.
Like an Apple.
Yeah, like you don't see them on your phone or anything like that.
Exactly, or Microsoft.
But their chips, though, are really essential. Like they're everywhere.
They are, yeah. Working behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes, yeah.
Powering data centers, the internet, you know?
Yeah, and increasingly the AI boom.
Absolutely.
That's the big thing.
Big time.
So it's funny because, like, you might not see their logo on your phone.
Right.
But every time you stream a video work from home,
right.
Broadcom's tech is making that happen.
Yeah.
Their chips are handling massive amounts of data.
Yeah, and just making sure things run smoothly.
Yeah, it's crazy. So how are they positioned, like, strategically with this AI boom?
So as the demand for AI explodes,
Yeah.
it just intensifies the need for all this processing power and
Yes.
that connectivity.
So is that what makes Broadcom so, like, well-positioned that they can offer that?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
They're developing these custom processors that are specifically designed for these AI workloads.
Okay.
And then on top of that, they're creating the ultra-fast networking chips
Yeah.
needed to handle just the massive amounts of data
Right.
that AI requires.
Yeah, so it's kind of like having the best engine and the fastest racetrack.
That's a great analogy.
Thanks. It just popped into my head.
It works.
So I've heard about these Broadcom's Tomahawk and Jericho chips.
Yes,
Are those related to this?
absolutely.
Okay.
So those are dominating the market right now.
Wow.
For high-speed switching.
What?
And especially for, AI clusters. It's like,
AI clusters.
okay, imagine a supercomputer that's made up of thousands of processors all working together.
Yeah.
And they need to communicate incredibly fast. And that's where these networking chips come in.
I see. So it's like Broadcom's providing the
backbone,
backbone. Yeah.
the infrastructure.
Okay. Interesting. So it's not all sunshine and roses for Broadcom, though, right?
Right.
There's some controversy
Sure.
with their recent acquisition.
Definitely, yeah. So that $61 billion acquisition of VMware.
$61 billion.
Big money.
I mean, some people are raising eyebrows, especially like large companies.
Especially those large companies, yeah. Because
Why is that?
so VMware users,
Okay.
particularly those big companies,
Right.
they have some reasons to be worried.
Right.
Historically, after acquiring companies,
Right.
Broadcom has been seen as prioritizing profit over innovation.
Okay, so you mentioned Broadcom's history of prioritizing profit after these acquisitions.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give us an example of what's happened in the past?
Yeah, so there have been instances where Broadcom has increased prices for products after an acquisition or reduced investment in research and development.
Oh, so they're not trying to make the products better.
Well, yeah, that's the concern, right?
Right.
That it could lead to concerns about the long-term viability of the company's offerings.
So that's why people are worried about, like, VMware products going up in price.
Right.
Less investment in them.
Yeah.
And maybe even, like, customer support going downhill.
Absolutely.
So who would this affect? Like, is this just a big company problem?
Well, anyone who's using, cloud computing or virtualization, which many businesses rely
It
on.
would be impacted.
Yeah, down the line.
Okay, so this is something to watch out for.
Yeah.
So I've heard Broadcom is doing a lot more than just AI.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, they're not just betting everything on AI. They got their fingers in a lot of pies, right?
Many pies, yeah. So, networking,
Okay.
custom silicon for tech giants like Apple.
Right.
And now, thanks to VMware, a significant foothold in the software market.
So even if the AI hype cools down,
They have other streams of revenue to fall back on.
which is smart. Tell me more about their custom silicon work. I know they're not just making chips for data centers.
No, so you're right.
Right.
They're also designing specialized processors for things like, the facial recognition technology in your iPhone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so Apple relies on Broadcom
Interesting.
for some of the key components that make their devices so powerful
Okay.
and feature-rich.
So Broadcom's everywhere.
Pretty much, yeah,
Yeah.
in one way or another.
Wow. This is really fascinating stuff. It's kind of crazy to think that Broadcom is quietly powering so much of our digital lives.
Yeah, they really are.
But with all this success, it's easy to think they're just unstoppable, like
Right.
what could possibly go wrong? Are there any challenges you think they're going to have to overcome to stay on top?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so even giants can stumble. So what could trip up Broadcom?
Well, some critics think that trillion-dollar valuation might be a bit inflated.
Okay, so maybe they're not worth quite that much.
Right, and plus the market for these high-performance chips,
Yeah.
especially for AI, it's getting really competitive.
It's getting crowded.
Yeah.
So what are the things on the horizon that could cause them problems?
Well, competition's heating up, for one thing.
Okay.
NVIDIA, you know them, the graphics cards.
Yeah, they're huge.
They're making a big push into networking, and that puts them head-to-head with Broadcom.
Oh, so they're going right after Broadcom's territory.
Yeah, in a key area.
So it's a two-front battle then.
Right.
They have to keep innovating with AI
Yeah.
and keep fending off rivals in their existing markets.
Exactly.
It's a lot.
It is.
What else? What else should we be watching for?
Well, AI itself is still evolving really rapidly.
Right?
So what if future AI applications need less of the kind of infrastructure Broadcom provides right now?
Oh, that's interesting.
You know, all these fancy chips and data centers,
Right.
they might not be as essential as AI changes.
Yeah, so that would be a huge problem for them.
It could be, yeah.
Okay, so that's a big risk factor. Anything else?
Well, there's the whole VMware situation, you know, if they mishandle that
Yeah.
and lose a bunch of customers.
Because they jack up prices or something?
Or, you know, service goes down.
People get frustrated.
Exactly. And that's a lot of lost revenue.
That $61 billion they spent suddenly doesn't look so good.
Right. Could end up being a really bad deal.
So it seems like a lot is riding on how Broadcom handles things in the next few years.
It really does.
Any other potential issues?
Well, there's also the regulatory landscape to think about.
Oh, right. The government.
As Broadcom gets bigger,
Right.
regulators might start scrutinizing their acquisitions more closely.
Makes sense. They want to make sure they're not getting too powerful,
Exactly.
and then they can't just keep buying up companies to grow.
Right. It could limit their strategy.
Yeah. Okay, so it's not all smooth sailing for Broadcom.
Not necessarily, no.
They've got a lot to navigate.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they're definitely a force to be reckoned with right now in AI and cloud computing.
Oh, without a doubt.
They're a big player.
Yeah, but, you know, it's like that saying,
What's that?
what got you here won't necessarily get you there.
Oh, that's a good one.
You know, they can't just rest on their laurels.
Right. They got to keep innovating.
And keep those VMware customers happy.
Yeah, and fend off the competition.
It's a lot to juggle.
It is. Well, we've covered a lot of ground on Broadcom.
We have.
But I want to leave our listeners with something to think about.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about these big companies.
Yeah, like Broadcom, NVIDIA.
But what about the smaller companies that are trying to get into the game?
The up-and-comers.
Yeah, are they worth paying attention to?
Oh, I think so. Absolutely.
What makes them interesting?
Well, they might not have the same resources or
Mhm.
market share as the giants, but they often bring fresh perspectives, you know?
real ideas.
And they're hungry. They want to disrupt things.
You're not afraid to take risks.
Right. That's a good point.
Okay, so maybe these smaller companies are the ones to watch.
They could be, yeah. It's a fascinating part of the tech world.
It's kind of like, the next Broadcom
Mm-hmm.
could be out there right now,
Absolutely. Yeah.
working in a garage somewhere.
You know, just plugging away.
That would be cool to see.
It really would.
So they might not be on anyone's radar yet,
Right.
but they could be the ones to really shake things up.
They often are. Right.
Yeah, so for our listeners out there, if you're thinking about, like,
Investing.
investing in tech, yeah, or just trying to, stay ahead of the curve,
Mm-hmm.
don't just focus on the big names.
Right. It's important.
Like everyone's talking about NVIDIA now, but
Yeah. Look beyond the surface.
exactly,
Explore those smaller companies.
because you might find, like,
The next big
the
thing.
next big thing. Yeah,
Before anyone else.
yeah, that's exciting.
It is.
It's kind of like, the early days of personal computing
Well, yeah.
when Apple was just starting out.
in a garage.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a classic story.
And who knows? Maybe,
Maybe history will repeat itself.
exactly. So we've been talking about Broadcom today,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a good reminder that the tech landscape is always changing.
Always shifting.
And it's not just about the flashy stuff.
Yeah.
The new gadgets,
Yeah.
the apps. It's also about the kind of the underlying infrastructure.
The stuff that people don't always think about.
Yeah, the chips, the software,
The networks.
all the things that make it all work.
Yeah, and without that stuff,
None of it would be possible.
none of the stuff we rely on would even exist.
Right, exactly.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
So it's important to understand the whole ecosystem,
I think so, yeah.
from the big giants
With Broadcom
to the tiny startups.
trying to make their mark.
So the next time you're like streaming a movie or sending an email.
Or just browsing the web.
Yeah.
Just take a second to appreciate all the stuff that's happening behind the scenes.
It really is amazing when you think about it.
It is. And
Give a little nod to those Broadcom chips.
Yeah.
Quietly working away.
This deep dive has been really insightful.
I've enjoyed it.
Thanks for guiding us through it.
My pleasure.
And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in.
Hope you learned something.
We'll see you back here for another deep dive soon.
Sounds good.